Hello, everyone, and welcome to today's training. Today, we decided to skip a regular schedule where we wanted to show you how to do the prequal and jump to a really hot topic, which is called the trigger rate. So the trigger rate has been a hot topic for the past 2 weeks among brokers. And we first learned about it from Dustin Woodhouse's Be the Better Broker video. If you haven't checked it out, I recommend you go to Be the Better Broker on Facebook, join that group and watch Dustin's video. So we wanted to figure out whether we can actually use the app to calculate the trigger rate. So we did figure it out, and I'm about to show you. So without further ado, let me share my screen here. Okay, how to calculate the trigger rate is today's topic. And what is the trigger rate? Well, let's find out. So the trigger rate in a nutshell is the rate at which the regular mortgage payments no longer covering the accrued interest. So interest rates in a variable rate has increased so much that the entire payment is now dedicated towards the interest and nothing towards the principal. So at that point in time, all the payment is going towards interest. And if the rate was to increase a little bit more, the payments no longer cover the interest. But let's backtrack a little bit. What is a variable rate? Variable rates are calculated using a plus or minus offset from prime. So when a client gets their variable rate, they actually don't get a rate, they just get an offset at the prime at that point in time. So if prime is 3.2, which it is today, and the client has a -1 offset, then their net rate is actually calculated to be 2.2. Very simple, 3.2 minus 1, 2.2. Variable rates, however, come in two shapes. We have the ARM, which is the adjustable rate mortgage, and the VRM, variable rate mortgage. And that is sometimes called the true variable rate. There is a significant difference between them, and the ambulance just flying by. Give it a second. There is a significant difference between them, and I'm hoping to show it to you today. ARM is basically when prime changes, the entire payment changes. It's adjustable. So that's visually, if you see it, this is the total payment. When there is a principal part and an interest part to the total payment. When prime changes, let's just say it increases, both principal and interest component change and the total payment actually changes. And so it fluctuates with prime. VRM is basically when prime changes, just the interest part of the payment changes, but the total payment remains fixed. So if you were to visualize this, think of it as this is the total payment. There's a principal part and an interest part. And when, let's say, prime increases, the interest part changes, principal gets reduced. However, the entire payment remains fixed. That's very important to know. Now let's take it home now. VRM as a whole summary, and I'm gonna get to a point where you're going to wonder what the trigger rate is. So let's start with a 2.45 prime and an offset of -1. In a VRM scenario, we know that the offset will remain the same for the remainder of the term, and the payments are fixed, right? Or is it? Let's look at the first example here. Prime was 2.45 a long time ago. And in this case, our net rate would be 1.45. 2.45 minus 1, 1.45. Our payments are the same. And that would mean that $2,444 goes towards principal, and the rest of the payment goes towards interest. Now, when prime changed on March 8th, it got bumped by 0.25 by 25 basis points. Everyone who had a variable rate with an offset of 1 now suddenly has a net rate of 1.7. What happens is in a fixed payment, the interest part increased, principal remained the same. And then again on April 19th, we got a 50 basis point jump in prime. So it was 3.2 and it's 3.2 today. The net rate of that person would be 2.2 with an offset of 1, minus 1. And more interest gets covered in the payment, but the payments remain the same. And in the future, when the rates go up again by 50 basis points, hopefully not, the pattern continues. Now you are wondering yourself, how much can it go? At what point, at what rate is the entire payment covered with interest? And that is, ladies and gentlemen, called the trigger rate. It's the rate at which the entire payment is dedicated towards interest. And that's the one we're going to find out today. I'm going to show you how to use the app in order to calculate this. All right, now let's see how we can calculate this trigger rate on our app. So first thing you want to do is you want to locate the simple mortgage calculator, which is right here. So let's just open that up. Now we're going to reproduce whatever I have here on the screen. So let's start with the top. You see it's a monthly payment frequency. So we're just going to tap on here, change it to monthly. And then we got $800,000 mortgage. So let's enter that in. We got a 1.45. And it's a 23-year and 0 months. Now, once you do that, you have to make sure that your rate type, which is variable, also matches. So this needs to be a variable rate. All you have to do is tap on it, change it to a variable. So now the payments are correct, perfectly aligned. And you notice there's something new here. It says trigger rate. So that is your trigger rate. For this rate, this mortgage amount, this amortization, this would be the trigger rate. So in summary, all you have to do is open up the simple mortgage calculator and view the trigger rate. Make sure you enter in all the details, current balance, current amortization, current rate. Make sure this is a variable rate, because a fixed rate does not have a trigger rate. A fixed rate is a fixed rate for the entire term. Now there's something else we added that's pretty cool. There's a way to push out the trigger rate. So if you apply extra payments, you can actually increase your trigger rate and you can have a bit of buffer. To do that, tap on the summary row. The summary row is right here. So you can see it says payment summary. Tap on this. And suddenly you get all these amazing numbers. You get the principal and interest breakdown of the mortgage. You also see the balance end of term and the effective amortization. But what we're looking for is add extra payments, which is right here. Now you can simply increase by 20% or any other amount you like. I'm going to use 20%. And suddenly our trigger rate now it's 6.14. You can see if I set it back to 0, 5.12, increasing it by 20%, I've increased it almost by an entire percent. So you can now go back and generate a report for your client showing the updated trigger rate if they were to make extra payments. So you have a nice report here. At the bottom, it will also show the new trigger rate, 6.14. The additional advantage of making extra payment is you also reduce your effective amortization. You can see here by 4 years and 4 months, and you get lots of savings as well. There is interest savings in the term and in the total life of the mortgage. So just as a summary, in order to go for extra payment, let me just go back and reset everything. So I'll just tap on this reset button, sets it all back to 0. I'll close it so that we can walk through my slides at the same time. So you tap on this to expand. Oops, there we go. And of course, you get to this, you add extra payments, and now you can apply 20% additional payments and watch the new trigger rate. So that's all, folks. Thank you so much for tuning in, and we'll see you next week.